Hello, hello, hello. What is up, Dungeoneers? Welcome back to the Nexus. I'm your host, Azriel, and I'm joined by our always talented director, CR, also known as the Disembodied Hand. Right, just the finger today, huh? Right. Yeah, welcome back. We are back from the weekend, and we have another episode of the Everyday Dungeoneer for you today. I'm super excited about today. We've got a very, very talented artist. You guys know him as Creaturiste, aka Creature. He's been a sculptor, a a mask maker. He's made puppets. He's done all kinds of crazy things, and he's also an illustrator. And he's been doing that for 21 years. And he is joining us here tonight. Creature, thank you so much for having us, man. Or thank you so much for being here. Oh, I think you're muted.
There you go. Sorry, I'm less familiar
Hey,
with Discord. Thank you for having me.
no worries at all. So I gotta ask. We always have to start this with the almighty question. What is your class and alignment?
My class would be working class, and my alignment would be chaotic good.
Working class. I love that. That is perfect. That's canon from now on. Definitely. So yeah, you've got a model for me to make tonight during our talk. What is this model going to be?
Let's give you a challenge here just to make it fun for everybody.
Okay.
How about a cephalopod person, like an anthropomorphized cephalopod,
Okay.
a carpenter who's currently making a bow staff?
An anthropomorphized cephalopod carpenter that is currently making a bow staff.
Yep.
That is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to make this. All right, cool. We're gonna go ahead and dive into VR here. Get
Hello,
this
Gelf.
open.
Hello, Spectrefay.
Oh, where are they? There they are.
Oh, am I allowed to interact with the chat?
Oh, of course. By all means, please.
Cool.
Come on. There we go. All right. Hi. You guys can't see my visor anymore, but you can still see my hand, so I can still wave at you. You don't need to be here, so you can go away.
This is my first time seeing a person sculpt in VR live.
Really?
Yep, I've seen videos of the end results, but I've never seen it live.
Oh, cool. Well, hopefully you're in for a treat. I've been practicing this quite a bit, and this is probably one of my favorite mediums that I've ever worked in. I absolutely love it.
Is this Oculus Medium or Quill?
No, this is a program called Gravity Sketch.
Ooh, never heard of it.
Yeah, it's for both the Oculus Quest and the Oculus Rift. And I'm currently running it. The reason that you can see me right now is because I'm running the Rift version of it. But the Quest version is just as powerful, and it's probably one of my, like I said, this is my favorite medium I've ever worked in. It's pretty insane. So you have worked in a ton of different mediums. You've been doing this for 20. You said 21 years.
Yes. I haven't done any CGI sculpting. I've tried a little bit, and before I tried to try ZBrush, but I could not even find a lump of clay. Like, it was too many sub menus, and there was no clear answer anywhere when I searched. So I gave up on ZBrush for a bit. Now I want to get back to it because I want to create miniatures, and that seems to be the smartest way to do it because it's way too small to go 35 millimeters or less.
Oh
But
yeah.
I will do that for golems and clunkier character like this. But once I need, anthropomorphized animals and other humanoids, I will need something more sharp, more zooming capabilities, and less shaky hands. By the way, console, we cannot hear you. You might still be muted in Discord.
Oh, he adds his 2 cents in every once in a while, but he's usually pretty quiet during the stream. So I can always hear him typing away over there. If I stop hearing the typing, that's when I start getting worried and pull the headset off.
Okay, on my end, I just can't hear him, and he mentioned an audio check a moment ago in Twitch. So now we heard him very distant, but he's there.
Yeah, he's in. He's being picked up on my microphone.
Cool.
Yep. And so he just wanted to say it's like he's as the director, he works much more in the background, so he'll he'll pop in every once in a while. So what was it that made you want to become a professional artist?
I had no choice. I
No
was uh,
choice.
I was obsessed from birth. I destroyed my most of my toys trying to turn them into something else. I did not have the background or the access to the type of learning or especially tutoring or mentoring I needed. So I basically learned at first how to not make things, how not to do things right
Right.
by
Right.
destroying and trying to fix it and always failing at first. So learn what not to do is a very deep way of learning, I think, but it's definitely the most frustrating and the least efficient.
Oh, I
So
completely agree.
you will make mistakes. So might as well try to start with some foundations that will get you successes from the start, like little successes you can step on to elevate your skills and your interest as well. If you give
Mhm.
up before you get any result, then what was the point of all this? So when I teach, that's how I go about it. I try to evaluate where they are, where the student is, and if they are nowhere, if it's their first foray into visual arts, then of course we're going to start super simple. But I want
Mm.
them to have fun, interesting result from the start. Like within a few hours of work, they're going to have something that can propulse them to the next step and to the next step. So when I started, it was all about I have this yearning to do something, and I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the foundation. I didn't have even the basic techniques. I could not even hold a craft knife. So I actually learned how to use a craft knife when I was 20, in graphic design school. It
Oh
was a bit
wow.
of a handicap, but I did. I learned it, and I cut myself a lot until I learned how to handle a blade.
Right.
But, if I can learn how to do this and make a living at it, I think anybody can, because I definitely did not have any innate talent in the fields of visual arts. I just had a yearning for it, a determination slash stubbornness. Those were my
Right.
those were my talents. So I'm still frustrated about many, many aspects because, you're surviving, you're paying the bills, you're getting the jobs that you're getting, but sometimes you just want to stop. I just want to stop and learn the stuff I'm missing. Like anatomy skills are something I'm definitely lacking. I've been focusing on faces and hands for so many years because in my field you can get away with, not that I wanted to, but the way that the characters are usually dressed in loose clothing or super heavy fur can hide all the defects. So you can make a stick figure of a body as long as the face and the hands and sometimes the feet are really, really well sculpted. Everything else, is hidden away. So
Mm.
that basically became the excuse that, you know, I basically had to use to keep going and not lose my mind about I need to do, anatomy skills. I need to, really bone up on that. So I've been doing that, part time. I have a program here on DVD that I can watch, and every time I try just for an hour, it seems like I'm increasing my skills by, a factor of 6 months. So it has, value. You need to stop and learn once in a while.
Oh, I completely agree. It's uh, my- okay. What's the question? So chat is asking if you've ever done audiobooks before.
No, but I would love to.
You've got the voice for it. That's it. I'm betting that's not that is
I do
that's
have an
why.
I do have an ASMR channel where I do some of that. I don't read a book, but I tell a story, I improvise. In fact, the character I showed you before the show, my Umber character was originally created for that channel.
Oh
For
wow.
the healer. He's got my voice. He's me, like just in a medieval fantasy costume and helping people with magical ailments. So if you want to fall asleep one night because your mind is overactive, you could probably check that out. I have a gift for lulling people to sleep with my voice. This is my actual voice that I'm using now. Gelf has heard my voice in another setting, and I was much higher pitched
Mhm.
because I was unconsciously using what I developed as my day voice, so people don't fall asleep in front of me. But this is my actual voice when I don't push it, when I don't try not to make people fall asleep.
So everybody's asking for a link in chat.
Okay. I don't have a link right now because I'm trying to keep the setup simple, but if you search for Umber Gnome ASMR on YouTube, you'll find me easily.
Awesome.
Especially the older videos. If you just want something to fall asleep to, there's an old one called The Cave of Rest. It's very low tech. I recorded it by strapping a snowball microphone on my chest and burying my mic and myself underneath my bathrobe to try to eliminate the computer tower sounds. And fell asleep 3 times or twice during the recording myself. I had
Wow.
to patch these together, and I've had people fall asleep to that for a long time.
That is awesome.
Thank you, Gelf.
I unfortunately cannot see what's being said in chat. So I apologize if it takes me a minute to respond.
Oh, it's okay. I can help out. I can read it out if you need.
Hey,
By the
no
way,
worries.
can you narrate what you're doing right now? Are you creating clothing or a foundation for extra armor?
Yeah. Well, so what I'm thinking is, you said that this guy is an anthropomorphized cephalopod. So I'm
Yes.
thinking either a squid or maybe an octopus. So there is a specific type of character, and I can't remember what they're called. I know that Gelf has a character like this, where they're kind of like a centaur, but instead of being having the lower half of a horse, they have the lower half of an octopus.
Cicalia, she says.
Cicalia. Okay, yeah. So that's kind of what I'm creating here. Is I put the base down for his skin, and what I'm working on right now is I'm thinking that if this guy's a craftsman, most craftsmen are going to have some kind of like belt or some kind of protective clothing that they would be using.
Yeah.
But since this guy's working on a bow staff, I was thinking that he would be a little bit more of a fighter. So I was thinking I was going to give him a kidney belt, a big leather kidney belt,
Nice.
and then from there, that would be the transition between his human half and then all of the tentacles that I'm going to put
How convenient.
down. Right.
You have that separation point, but you have like this piece of garment that links them up together. That just makes sense. To me,
Oh yeah.
a costume is not complete without a belt or some kind of cinch between the tunic or the shirt and the pants.
I absolutely agree. It's what pulls costumes together. I spent a long time. If you look behind me, let's see. There's my guardian. So right there is a the first cosplay costume that I ever actually wore at a con, and I spent a long time on the belt. That's a Cadian guard from Warhammer 40K.
Nice.
So So I understand that you make puppets and masks. What was it that you seem to you work in a bunch of different mediums, and I
Yeah.
think that is really cool. But specifically masks, I've seen some of the work you've done, and it's like Hollywood quality,
Thank you.
really incredible
What
stuff.
what I do does not fit within the realm of filming in 4K, for example, my
Hmm.
detail level in and my accuracy in anatomy is not up to par for that. However, some of my work has been filmed despite that in 4K because they needed that grungy handmade look. So it all
Hmm.
depends on the director and especially the lighting the lighting director to feature the textures instead of trying to make them look smoother, because that's when you fail because the prop does not have that level yet. So
Yeah, definitely.
my levels would be more, I call it theatrical exaggeration. Like you need a bit of a boost in shapes and colors and definitely textures for a mask or a puppet or any kind of prop to look good at a distance, because in a live audience setting you need the people in the back to be able to still tell basically what it is. So instead of a perfectly smooth ball, it's better if you have facets on it because it will look like like an actual ball from a distance instead of a flat disc. That's how
Mm.
lighting works at a distance. So my work has always been informed and modified by the needs of the project. So if the director wants me to do something clumsy looking, I will. I will be a bit frustrated about it because I like to apply myself. But
Right.
I once had a director tell me, "Okay, these drawings are fantastic, but I can't have you build these for me. They're too beautiful." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, that's what I do. Like, I do my best. He's like, "No, that's you don't understand. For the need of the project, I need you to make badly built puppets. I want them to look like they're badly made, and
Interesting.
I want them to look sick. I want them to look like they're dying slowly from radiation poisoning. But I also want you to make sure that it looks like a person did not know what they were doing when they were building them." So that was a challenge because I always do my best. And the end result is that I did not like most of the puppets. There was one that was particularly rough that I really liked, but I don't actually show pictures of these other puppets on my websites because they just don't cut. They don't make the cut anymore.
Hmm.
So I adapt to the project. It doesn't mean I'm going to like it,
Right.
but you have to satisfy the customer.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, that's why these days I've been trying to focus my energies into getting more time to work on my own projects. Before that happens, more regularly, I need to finish some jobs for customers that have been waiting for a while. I have a few unfinished businesses that I need to complete. After that, I'll be able to stream more regularly as I used to, and just just push the details, the storytelling, and everything. What I do is illustration, no matter what medium I'm using. So a mask is a story in itself. If it's just a face, the face itself has details, damage, colors,
Hmm.
deformations that will tell a story. But once you wear a costume with it, once you have a person underneath, that's an ever developing story. If it's a puppet, it's even more complete because you have the body and the costume that, each of these elements bring, visually speaking, without you explaining anything verbally, it brings a story to life.
Hmm.
So when I do actual illustration with mostly these days digital painting or sketching, it's the same thing. Like I put clues visually. So before I even describe what's happening, people can relate or at least guess at what the story is.
That is, I. It's so interesting to hear somebody else talk about that because when uh, when it comes to storytelling, one thing that I've had to adopt a lot in low poly art is it's almost more important what you can imply than what you can show. And I can
Yes,
imagine that in costuming and in the prop and makeup business, that depending on the shot, that would definitely dictate your like the level of detail, right?
absolutely. If the whole thing is going to be filmed in the dark and they're just going to suggest or, like you said, convey, or what was the other word?
It's what you can. It's what you
Imply.
can imply than what
Yeah.
you can show.
So
Yeah.
if they want the monster, for example, if it's a monster story and they want to imply that the monster is, bone like, but you're not quite sure what it's made of. If that's what they give me as an indication, then of course I will not spend most of the time on texturing the bones. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to focus on shape, on how the light will reflect and be absorbed by, the object, how the shadows will show in the eye sockets, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, as a bonus near the end, I'm going to add a texture, maybe add some sand or some sawdust to the glue or to the medium I'm using, just to add a bit of grit, like an unexpected change of surface, of surface shimmering, so that if the camera, catches a glimpse of the creature from, a beam of light or something, then you'll get something more interesting than a completely even, smooth surface. Because my whole thing is about contrast. Not
Right.
just in storytelling, but contrast of colors, textures, proportions, realism levels, details, sizes, and
Mm-hmm.
finishes as well. Like I used to do a mask, for example. Most of the mask would be made of one material, and the end result looked like one thing until I painted. And with the paint, I would come up with a look because of colors and you know s- simulated textures. They would look like different materials, but there was always something missing until I understood the need for various sculpted surfaces to start with. The
Mm-hmm.
paint will enhance all of that, but if you don't have the sculpture underneath, then it's basically cheating to me. Like for
Right.
others, it's perfectly justified to do all the texturing in faux finish with the paint, and I admire that skill. But for me, I need all of it. I need
Mm-hmm.
all the techniques to dance together like a choir. Like a choir is not one singer with some backup singers. The choir is one voice built around many voices. If you don't see it that way, then unfortunately your choir might sound, not up to snuff,
Right.
depending
No,
on
I
your approach, of course.
yeah, no, that's a really beautiful way of looking at it. I mean, especially when you're working on something collaborative, that yeah, that definitely makes a big difference because you've got all of these different disciplines that are coming together, especially in the film industry. And if they're not working together properly, then it doesn't work. You know,
Exactly.
it's I liken it to I spent a little bit of time in the military. Well, a little bit of time. I spent 13 years in the military
That's a bit,
on
yeah.
yeah on submarines, and when it comes down to it, if your crew doesn't work together, then in that case it's kind of a life or death thing. But it definitely makes a difference. You learn to adapt and make sure that what you're doing coincides with what everybody else is doing.
Teamwork is super important.
Yeah,
I have to
exactly.
take a pause. I have to take a pause here to answer someone in the chat. Snowshoe is suggesting that I should consider adding to my contracts that I stream the creation of commissions. I don't have contracts these days. I don't usually need them. I will sign them if I need to, but I do make it clear to all my customers that I prefer to be able to stream the content. If there is an NDA, there will be an extra fee. NDAs are non-disclosure agreements, so
Hmm.
that you don't show anything until the thing is published by the customers themselves under their own terms. If that happens to me, that's an inconvenience. So there's a fee for that, because I can't stream it, therefore I can't work on it as often, or I can't stream as often. So currently I have just one NDA project. Sorry, two. The first one is my day job. I'm now a an online cartoon puppeteer for birthday parties and classrooms.
An
So that's my day.
online
Yeah.
I,
So
I have to stop you there for a second. What exactly does this entail? Because that's I've never heard of that profession before.
well, first of all, I'll leave a link in the chat so people can see what I mean. So it's in French, but you'll see the concept pretty quickly because they have a demo. They have a video demo explaining how it is. They're actually
Mhm.
working on a better version now. I'm recording the final takes tomorrow morning. So yeah, what it entails is I through different movement capturing and keyboard shortcuts and a Stream Deck, I'm allowed to say that I use a Stream Deck and various gaming and other technologies that are commercially available. I'm not allowed to give the whole recipe because
Right.
the team developed something that's pretty cool and they want to keep an exclusivity on it for now. But basically, I animate, voice, improvise these characters on screen to provide content and for, entertainment and or education. Usually is both. So
That is awesome.
I can change my voice, and then we can talk about all sorts of different topics. Like, do you like biodiversity? I love it. Like, I hope you compost at home. And sometimes I think you should leave your compost out for a long time and look at the microorganisms inside, especially if you have an ability to turn off your nose because it's gonna smell bad. But if you look at it real close, you'll see a whole lot of life in there.
That's awesome.
So I can get my crazy out and get paid for it. So it's a dream job for a
I was
person
about
like
to
me
say.
who works from home. And but this I cannot show live, obviously. I'm
Mhm.
live to the customers at the time, and I can show you the website I just sent because it's already published. It's out there for, of course, promoting the services, and I feel obligated to mention it as much as I can because it gives me more gigs in the future. Like, we're booking in advance. I, and of course I schedule it, and I show up, I do it for an hour, and then move on to the next. So this is my first.
Right.
That's my first NDA, non-disclosure agreement. I cannot stream this live, but eventually people can see some recordings, some promos. I recently improvised. Well, improvised. I composed a rap song to promote the service. It's going to be published any moment now. It was just approved this morning. So
That is awesome.
I don't do rap. I'm not super familiar with the style. It's not even one of my favorites, but I had this inspiration for the service. I said to my boss, "Can I do it as a rap?" And he said, "Yes. Try it." Took a while for approval. We did several versions, and I hired the Dark Cloak, whom you know, I think, because
Yeah.
you're going to, or you have interviewed him. Is it been done or is it coming up?
He's our Thursday, actually.
Awesome. I'll be
Yeah.
there
So.
watching. He's an amazing artist, and he also happens to be a musician. So he created a beat for me, and he mastered the final song, and it was amazing as a process. He is very patient and didactic. Like, he helped me learn the stuff I needed to learn to make
Right.
this more decent. So kudos to him, and thanks to him again. So I hired him for that, for the beats and the mastering, and I'm eager for people to hear it. I've shown it to a few people, and so far they liked it. So, it all this to say that this kind of job is the same kind of job as I do everywhere else. It's about storytelling. It's
Mhm.
about improv, combining the skills and pushing the envelope, getting better at everything.
Oh, I completely agree.
Yeah. And
That's a.
the second NDA is I currently making a mask for a customer, and there was a misunderstanding. Uh, the previous versions I did for him, I streamed everything, and he was
Mhm.
okay with that. But this time around, when I made an upgrade, he had assumed that I was reading his mind, and that I was supposed to keep that on the down low. And
Ah.
I already streamed 3 episodes of me working on his mask,
Mhm.
and he freaked out a little bit, understandably, because he assumed that I was going to keep it secret. And I was like,
Right.
well, I did not know that. So I erased all the content. And I have been putting that project on hold for a while because I had other things to finish on
Mhm.
stream. So I told him that, like, this will create a delay, but I will definitely respect your wishes.
Yeah.
So from now on, I'll be even more explicit about I stream everything unless mentioned otherwise,
Mhm.
because of course I want to share all that creativity with people. I want more people to try the arts, whether it's for a professional mean, or a goal, or just as therapy, as a hobby. These are all valuable things to do with the arts. So more people doing it benefits us all, benefits civilization at large, more creative people, people focusing on more creative endeavors instead of destructive ones. And also there's an understanding that settles down when you've done the arts yourself, crafts with a capital C, crafts with a minimal C, all these aspects of building things with your mind, with your body, with your tools, with your software. You get an understanding that these things take time, At the
Yeah.
very least, they take time. So when people want to hire you to build something, they might not balk as much at your prices. Like, what? I would never pay $300 for a mask. Why not? Like, you pay $300 for a whole television series if it's like 13 seasons.
Hmm.
So a mask that is unique, that someone made for you, for your needs, with your specific tastes and requirements, should, you should pay for that. Like, you should give it a fair price so that the person
Right.
is not exploited. So the more we learn about the crafts as a civilization, the more, and the arts, the more we all benefit from it. Because one day, oh man, I need to change my mindset. I don't know what. Like, oh, you know what? I'll grab a watercolor kit and I'm going to do some watercolors. I haven't done it in 20 years. You
Hmm.
know, a businessman could go about that. And, a doctor, a plumber. Like, can you imagine a plumber? Like, that's how set our minds are. A plumber who decides to suddenly make little fairy dolls. It's hard to imagine if if your mind is set on stereotypes like, oh, a plumber is someone muscular and they must do like tough, rough things, right?
Yeah.
But
It's absolutely true.
we all have passions and
Hmm.
we need to explore these things. So if these things get more accessible through the information, like streaming art for me is important because it's part of my mission to share that with the world and show them it's
Hmm.
accessible. You don't need to go to school for this. I sure didn't. I learned on the job. I read articles, I watched videos, and I asked a mountain of questions.
Right.
I don't always get answers because people are busy or they don't answer questions. But I've made friends by asking questions. One of my dearest friends right now is friends with me because we started hanging out after years of corresponding online. One day he calls me, on Facebook messages and says, "Hey, dude, I live in your town now. Want to hang out?" It's
Oh,
like,
nice.
don't joke about that, dude. He's like, no, I'm here. So we started hanging out, and we're friends now, and we're working together on certain projects, and it's super motivating. We boost each other's, you know, inspiration.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a super important aspect of. Excuse me. I think that's one of the most important aspects of creativity. It's a good portion of the reason why we created Nexus Dungeoneering in the first place is you know the community that comes together through art is unlike any that I've ever seen before.
And
Um,
this is
and
new.
creativity affects everybody. I mean, I know that my my life has been. I think I could honestly say that my life was saved by art.
Same here.
Um, I when I served in the military, there were things that I wish I hadn't seen, and some hardships that came from that. And art was my outlet. It's something that helped save me. So yeah, it is far more than just putting figures on a paper or sculpting something out of clay. It can be a very, very powerful experience.
Speaking of the clay, I have an extra challenge for you here.
Oh
Being
boy. Okay.
being a cephalopod, I see that you went with the obvious, anthropomorphized grip, like you have two hands on the bow staff.
Hmm.
But being a cephalopod, if I was a cephalopod, I'd probably use my extra limbs to my advantage. So
Okay.
how about introducing one or two arms or tentacles, depending on which cephalopod you're using, um, to be part of the action
I
instead of
can
just on the ground.
I can totally do that. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for your flexibility.
Hey, no worries. I mean, this is your character, right? The part of the challenge, and I love this aspect of virtual reality is that this gives me the freedom to actually sculpt things very quickly.
Oh,
And
I'm mind blown right now by the progress you've done so far.
oh, thank you.
I mean,
um,
I'm not as familiar with these techniques. I've consumed some videos on it, and I'm assuming like right now there might be some viewers out there who have no foundation on this. So I'm guessing you're building a general shape over a pre-made dummy that saves you a lot of time.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's your basic structure that will eventually be rounded, I'm guessing.
hmm
Would that
So
become a lump of clay that you'll then, push and pull, or?
it depends on the model. If I'm doing something that's higher poly, a lot of the time uh, I'll make a shape like this, and then I'll go through and add in all the details. But as a low poly model, um, like I said, one of the things that I love about low poly is that it challenges you in what you can imply with as few shapes as possible.
Mhm.
So a lot of my faces, I mean, they have a little bit of detail in them depending on what they are. I did a battle rager recently that had a whole lot more facial features than anything else I'd created that far or thus far. But for the most part, the face usually will stay something close to this.
So we basically have a storytelling through shapes
Yeah,
instead of, lines and details and
yeah,
high frequency
exactly.
areas. Cool.
And I think, especially with this, one thing that I've noticed is that posing is absolutely uh, crucial. Like,
Yep.
because there's so much you can. Man, I can imagine that working with puppets, you know all about this.
Yeah, I'm
That
a puppeteer as well. I perform them as well as build them. So live, it doesn't require as much thinking as one might think. Like, you internalize a character by rehearsals. You get
mhm,
to know the puppet as a physical, mechanical object. It's a tool for performing. You're
mhm,
not thinking, where do I put my arm next? Usually, you just do it because you
right,
become the character. But if you're using the puppets for photography, for example, then you really have to think about it, like, because they're not in movement. It's not
yeah,
like a second or a fraction of a second in motion. You might have a perfect pose, but even if it was the worst pose, it doesn't matter. It just lasted a fraction of a second. In a
mhm,
photograph, that pose will last forever.
right,
So you basically would have to rehearse with the puppet in motion until you find that sweet pose, and then try to remember it. Maybe you filmed yourself, and then you have to recreate that pose by using multiple puppeteers or props or holders to hold that puppet in that position so that it looks like it's currently in a dynamic action, while in fact you can't have it move because your camera will get a fuzzy result. So every medium requires a whole lot of thinking in a whole lot of different ways. And the more you have, the more free you are, the more adaptable you are become becoming, because somebody gives you an extra challenge, like I just, asked you to engage one of the arms or tentacles, like
mhm,
you're going for it, and that's awesome. Some people might just get blocked by that request because, oh, I already made the foundation and I can't change it. So for some people, it's the box. You're inside the box
yeah,
that was predetermined, and that's all you can do. For me, the box is a nightmare because I want to try everything.
mhm,
So I will make boxes. I do need to make boxes, but my boxes have openings. They have size
mhm,
you can remove, or
yeah,
there's stuff you can add to it. But I try not to get too lost in possibilities because that also confuses the customers.
mhm,
So as a freelancer, you gotta, I would say, limit the customer's choices for their own good. I'm not
right,
saying, and I'm not saying you're micromanaging too much, but it's bad for the customer if they have too many things to choose from.
yeah,
So I try to limit myself to 3, sometimes 2. If it's
mhm,
really if really I only have 2 suggestions instead of 3, I'll just give 2. I'll say, "Number 3 was not worth showing you, so I'm gonna save us both a lot of time, and, you know, I just thought of something that goes against what you told me, but I think it would be better for the project, so, feel free to reject it or not, but it's just, I think you need to see this."
right,
And often they choose the one that contradicts them. Like, for example, they say, I hate lace. I hate lace. I don't want my character to have lace on it. I know you said you don't like lace, but because of that other description in your text, the character has a burn mark, and I think lace is the best way to do it on the skin. Like, I
mhm,
would crumple some lace and put some rubber on top of it. It will still look like lace for those who know what it is, But for the rest of us, you look at it from a distance, it totally looks like burnt flesh. So if you like that, I'll show you what I mean. Here's a sample. Look at that picture or look at that video footage, and oh my god, that's it. You know, I had no idea. Like, thank you for suggesting that. So I'm always pushing the envelope. The customer wants a male character because everybody asks for a male character at first. And I
Right.
go, male representation has been done to death. How about turning the character into a female? Like, I'm not the character designer in the storytelling part of it. I'm the builder. I can design the character based on their description. Changing
Mhm.
the gender is a big deal, but if they're early in the project, I'll usually suggest it, like gender or age or even social standing. It's like
Mhm.
let's represent more people. Let's give more representation. It makes for a better story, anyways. It creates connections between the people who are watching the show. Like, I felt like I was more in it because I recognized myself in there.
Right.
So we all have messages, but I think these are shared. We can share these things. So
Yeah.
pushing the envelope as a freelancer, some people say that never do that. You're going to confuse the customer. You're going to chase them away. I'm like, that's been the opposite for me. Like, some customers, you find out they don't like suggestions. They just want
Right.
you to do the job the way they told you. And uh, Sal calls it move the couch.
Right.
The dark cloak calls it moving the couch. Like, the customer wants you to put the couch there, you put the couch there, and you shut up. I agree.
Right.
I agree with that. Sometimes that's what the job is and what it calls for. But my favorite customers are those who have an open mind, who are willing to even just entertain the idea. Yeah. If
Yeah.
lace works for the character, says Snowshoe. Yes, whatever works. I'll have weird inspirations all the time, like that cephalopod character you're building. Like before the interview, the pre-talk we had, I came up with
Mhm.
something else, and just the more you do it, the easier it gets. Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
just start randomizing words in your head, and you go like you latch on to something around you. Like, I must admit, like cephalopod, I wasn't thinking about it in advance. I just part of me wanted to give you a challenge. So more than two arms, two legs, I was like, well, duh, cephalopods. So it all happened in a few seconds. So when you're working and the material is suggesting something, then might as well pay attention. Like, you can decide to keep the suggestion,
Mhm.
decide to maybe record it for future use for another project, or you can totally reject it. But if you don't pay attention to what's happening in your hands when you're shaping the clay or splashing a paint, or you made a mistake with the knife and something got chopped off, you know what? This character is more interesting with a pinky finger missing. You
Yeah.
know,
Happy mistakes.
exactly. Happy
Happy
mistakes.
mistakes
Let's go
happen.
back. Let's go back to Bob Ross and have that flexibility of mind and that ease of adaptability. You go like, you know what? That's not what I was planning to do,
Mhm.
but let's go with it. I like it.
Yeah. It works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like right now, go
My
for it.
mother always raised me with this belief that there's two kinds of people in this world. There's people who look at things and say, "What is this?" And then there's a totally separate group that looks at something and goes, "What could this be?" And they're
Hmm.
two very, very similar questions, or very similar
Excuse
sounding
me.
questions, but radically different when you think about it. A person who asks, "What is this?" is going to look down and see a rock, and that's what they're going to see, a rock, right? A person who asks, what could this be?" might look at that same rock and go, "I wonder if that's a meteorite." The reason I say that is because that was actually something that happened to her. She was in Australia, and uh, she and the people that she was working with were walking along this riverbed that these guys had walked down every single day for years and years in a nickel mine. And she looked down and she saw this rock, and she was like, "That looks really interesting. I think that might be a meteorite." Just because it looked weird to her. And these guys had seen this rock for years and had never thought about it. And sure enough, she picked it up, and it turned out to be a really, really big meteorite.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that's an important, you know, way that we look at creativity. Is it's how we if you're going to look at anything in life, always wonder what could it be, because if you're asking what it is, you're being satisfied with what you see and not exploring what things could be or what potential they have. At least that's my philosophy. So,
I totally agree with that. I integrate that completely in my work. It's is that questioning, that thirst for knowledge, but also that thirst for experiencing something else.
mhm,
Like you might not be planning to go on a walk in that direction, and then suddenly you have that urge to turn in the direction you were not planning to go. Follow that freaking urge. 'Cause you
yeah,
don't know. You might meet someone you never met before. You might notice a little spot that you never noticed. Living there for years, you never saw that tiny, tiny park that's an oasis of relaxation that you can now go to and have your coffee in the morning in the summer. Like,
hmm,
I discovered places like that just because I changed my habits for a moment of by a moment of inspiration is let's try something new. Some people
yeah,
just see that as a threat. They see that as chaos because it's not planned. It's not what I meant to do, etc. I'm like, I used to be like that. I have control freak tendencies, but I think control freaking, obsessing over controlling every element is a disease because yes, control is good. Control can be good, not always, but it's reassuring at least to have control and to make plans plans are necessary.
hmm,
Scheduling is necessary. Rules are necessary, but you have to determine every moment of your life how much those rules, how rigid or how flexible these rules are. Like
right,
right now, you need those rules for your software to work. The facets or the polygons you're creating right now, they
hmm,
they work because there's a shit ton of rules behind them,
yeah,
mathematical, geographical, even the optics of it, like how the lens is represented in the software so we can see what you're doing.
right,
There's visual distortions that are being corrected every single moment and movement that you do this, but in on your end as the artist, you are free to move, you know?
yeah,
So somebody else's rules may be benefiting you, but you don't have to think about them right now. What you have to think about is everything else.
hmm,
And you create your rules. You create like I gave you a general guideline for this character, and I had a completely different idea of poses in my head when I saw that suggestion. I didn't describe it to you because I wanted to see what you would come up with.
hmm,
Because if I gave you everything, I said he's working on a bow staff. I didn't tell you he was on a shave horse, you know, and using a spoke shave, which is what I saw in my head. I just told
hmm,
you he's working on a bow staff. To me, that was enough. In the past, I would have told you all these details because,
hmm,
I'll give you an actual example. I was watching a stream several years ago on another platform, and the artist was casually saying that he could draw pretty much anything. And that ticked me off a bit because I was jealous or
right,
envious, but I wanted proof because I don't like people to be boastful, and I didn't know if he was being boastful, so I challenged him. I said, "Okay, can you draw a six-armed robot taking a shower in a bathtub with bubbles and a rubber ducky?" And he was like, When do you want to do this?" I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, you just challenged me to something, so might as well do it with me. You
hmm,
want to be co-host?" I said, okay." And he did it brilliantly and smartly. He didn't have to draw the six arms, the three arms on both sides, because the pose
hmm,
he chose would hide two of the arms, you
right,
know. And the pose was dynamic. The rendering was fantastic. I was blown away. I made my own version, and I'm proud of it. But him is like years and years and years of and levels above mine. And
hmm,
yes, the guy can draw anything. I saw his stream several times, and he has something in his mind, and he can transfer it to paper or to Photoshop anytime. Like he will change the angles in his mind and totally render what he sees in his mind. I can't do that. I don't have those kinds of visualization skills. My
right,
visualizations are emotional. Like I know how I'll feel when the character is done, approximately. So I
hmm,
work until that goal is achieved. I do have images, but they're more blurry. They're more emotionally based than visually based. I can see a cube in my head. That's about it.
Right. That makes
So
sense.
yeah, with exercise, you can get better at it. I now can visualize more complex if I make the effort. I usually don't. I prefer to just go visualize what's happening in my hands as I add clay or glue cardboard together or
Hmm.
whatever technique I chose for that specific endeavor. We're
That
going
is
different directions, but I think it's important to, keep flowing.
right.
Chat, are you confused? If you are, please ask questions or bring us back to whatever topic we were talking about
Wait,
originally.
wait a second. CR, did you just say I only have 10 minutes left? Oh, till break? Okay. How long do I have left in the challenge? Do we even start a timer?
Oops.
20 minutes. Okay. So all right, I got 20 minutes uh till the timer runs out. I think I can do this.
Timers
What
are
do
for suckers.
what do you think so far?
Well, I'm impressed. Like, I'm guessing the human legs will disappear eventually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That,
now that I've got him done, I can get
mhm.
rid of that. So I'm thinking we're gonna stand him up a little bit here, like this.
Very cool. Now you don't have the dummy to worry about.
Hmm. And then I'm thinking that this leg here, I got something special planned for this guy. And then I got to put some hair on him, and I got to build the staff and some scales. Oh no, wait, he needs the little suckers. But I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to do that in low poly.
Well, can't you like clone a group and then just repeat it? Like make little cylinders, maybe with a a little hole in the middle, and just
Yeah, I probably could. Well,
make a quick group
you
and
know
then
what?
clone it.
Let's try this. So this is kind of a neat tool.
Like I know in Photoshop you can have a tool that already has shapes on it. I wonder if
Mhm.
they have that in sculpture, like a stamp.
Possibly. So we're gonna do
Because imagine making a tree if you don't have a stamp for the leaves. I mean, it would take years to make a single tree.
right. Come on, there we go. So what I'm thinking for the staff, I'm gonna do something like this. There we go. No, perfect.
How tall is this staff?
Oh, I mean it's a bow staff, so it's gonna be what a proper bow staff would be. What 6 feet? Is it?
I
I
don't know.
believe.
I'm no expert at weapons. Like for a while, I was, and I still am a big fan of staves instead of weapons that are, sharp, like swords and stuff like that. For me,
Mhm.
for some weird, mind inflexibility, I always assumed at first that the bow was less violent, but then I learned that it can crush a skull really easily.
Yeah.
So, so I can't use that excuse anymore. I just like the feel and the shape of a staff as opposed to any kind of sharp weapon. So I just have to admit that I'm a pacifist, but I'm not defenseless. So if I were
Right.
to choose a weapon, I would use a staff or a walking stick or a scepter or something. But it's just the way that my mind works.
Mhm.
2 meters, okay.
All right. So we're gonna try making some suckers here. So oh wait, why is it? Why can't I see it? What did you do? I blame you, CR.
Well,
Okay, so for some reason that didn't work. Let's try this.
can you like extreme zoom and just do it on one tentacle and then clone it elsewhere?
It's possible. What I'm thinking I'm gonna do, if we're gonna do this, you're actually just gonna build it this way. So pull this
That,
down like that.
that's a really good point, Spectre Fade. Yeah, yeah, you have more choice. You definitely more. You have more reach with the staff, but you also have more choice about maiming someone or not.
That is absolutely true. And
Mm.
it's, I mean, you can do a lot of damage with staff.
But
I
you can
remember
also use
watching.
it to carry. You can also use it to carry stuff,
Mhm.
or even help you walk. It can be, to me, it's a more neutral weapon, and I like Spectre Fade's example. It will help me in the future to justify my preference for it. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting. I was watching a episode of, oh God, what was that show? Deadliest Warrior, I think, where they take like two people who've never actually fought, like met in combat, and they test out all their weaponry. And one of the things that they had on there, they were doing a Shaolin monk, and these guys had terrifying one of the most terrifying weapons I've ever seen that they brought on the show. And it's just like a spinning knife. It's not a knife, it's like a spike. It's got two arrowheads on either side of it. And it's attached to a caster that you slip your finger through. And then you spin it around and you can use it to basically stab people's eyes out.
Oh,
It
dude.
was, and I was going, this is, I mean, like for such a peaceful people, this is a Shaolin monk. For such a peaceful people, that's a terrifying weapon.
Humans are living contradictions. We
Mhm,
can we can hold opposite ideas in our minds at the same time. Completely opposite. Like you could be a pacifist and be an expert at martial arts and
mhm,
even weapons making. Like you could be the best gun designer in the world and still be a pacifist, and you still do it, and somehow you find a way to do it because that's how you
mhm.
pay the bills. I'm like, maybe eventually you get an awakening, but in the meantime, you can do it because you're a freaking human being, and
Right.
that fascinates me and that terrifies me at the same time.
Yeah, understandably. Oh no, don't want to do that. Yeah, human beings are very complex. There's no question about that. Make a lot of really interesting decisions.
Yep. So, Gelf, are you talking about the topic of conversation right now, or are you talking about the situation? Like, if you're gonna fight, end it fast. Like, are you signifying that we're gonna have a break soon, or is the 20 minutes is probably up or about to be up?
Oh man. All right. So, yeah, 2 minutes for till break or till the end of my time. Okay. So I'm just gonna throw these on here.
Sucker. See, I've
That's
noticed that.
exactly what I'm putting on. Suckers.
Yep, I've noticed that I shifted to my day voice mostly in the past like half hour.
Oh, have you?
Yeah,
I didn't notice at all.
it's because it's become my go-to voice. But earlier I was more like this, so I just have to remind myself to relax the muscles and just go back to my voice.
Right. That makes sense.
My natural voice is this now. I mean, my voice shifted twice in my life, maybe three times. So whenever I lost some highs, I gained some lows.
Mhm.
So I'm all for it. I'm happy with that.
My voice dropped to this level when I was, I think, 9, and then by the time I was 13, I was 6 foot tall and weighed like 210 pounds.
Yikes!
I was a huge 12-year-old. So, all right, you know what? If it's almost break time, I mean, I've got just we got what, 10 more minutes left on the clock. Do we want to just push through it?
Yes, please.
All right, let's do it.
Unless you absolutely must go and empty your bowels or something.
I I don't think so. I'm thinking because I've got something kind of special planned for this guy, and I'm wanting to
By the way, I dig the layout in the back. Like something we might not notice at first, but it does create an atmosphere of a dojo.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a this this um this background is something that I use all the time. There's I either use this or the solid black background depending on what I'm building. Um, but man, the initial one that you come into is just blinding white. So
Yeah. Yeah, I prefer the grays and the shadows that are being streamed from the windows, the lights, I mean, light beams. They
mhm.
really add to that feeling of being there.
It's this is an amazing technology. I absolutely um
I'm
I mean
fascinated by it. I
when I remember, back in the 80s, uh 80s and 90s, do you remember Gator Vision?
Nope.
The the 80s version of virtual reality. I mean it was this monstrous headset that you basically had to hang from the ceiling with a chain to keep people from breaking their necks wearing it. And the lag was so bad on it that any more than a couple of minutes in it and you're going to be sick, guaranteed.
Wow.
And
They've made progress.
just a touch, yeah. I think they've done pretty well. So and now, you know, this is how I make my living, is with VR now.
Is your headset a standalone computer, or are you using it as just a peripheral that's connected to computer software?
The right now, I have an Oculus Quest, which is the wireless version. So technically, everything's being run from inside the headset instead of a computer.
Wow.
However, I do have a the reason that you're able to see through this extra camera is because I'm running something called an Oculus Link, which is this wire coming out of my head and going up onto the ceiling. That is allowing me to log into Oculus Quest and do all of the or Oculus Rift and do all of the Oculus Rift games as well. I can also play like Steam games on here, and I've played The Forest in VR before. That was some of the most fun I've ever played. Scary as hell.
Oh, I can believe it because you're really there. Like it feels like your
Oh yeah.
senses are tricked into thinking, you know, even if it was in low poly, I don't know that game, but even if the game was low poly, I'm guessing if it's smooth enough, if you got just enough detail, if the sound is right for, especially binaural. Does it have
Mhm.
binaural sound?
I believe so.
Wow. I mean, that's all you really need to feel like you're in there. I want to
Yeah.
try that. I want to try that at some point, but my only justification, if I want to be practical and economical about it, is can I sculpt minis in this environment? Like high poly. We're talking high poly, 35 millimeters for the final product. Of course, I would sculpt it bigger, but
Well,
is it a good, appropriate way to use the technology, you think?
how about this? When I'm done with the mini, I will show you one of the high poly minis that I've built using this program, and you can tell me what you think.
Well, there's my answer already. If you made one.
hmm So yeah, I've made several things. The model that I think I'm most proud of is the airship that I built in here, and that's high poly.
And by high
So
poly, we're talking like it looks like clay, or we still see the polygons?
oh no, you can't see the polygons. That actually I got probably one of the nicest compliments on my art ever. Somebody told me that they thought it looked real because of the way that it was rendered. So I was really, really happy with that. Oh, are you getting it? Getting it up? Awesome. That that's never a good question to ask. Cr. No, if he's getting it up, never a good never a good time. All right, so I'm thinking
Thank you,
like a
Snowshoe, for your input. So we got a little link from console, clicking on it. Holy shit. Yeah, that's high poly, right? That's I think judging by the scale mail, I think it's called, on the chest area, this looks like it has the capacity to do even more details.
Oh yeah,
Is it that must be a choice, like you stop there.
yeah. That was the first. That was my first foray into this into the 3D modeling with Gravity Sketch.
Very
I'd never done 3D modeling before in Gravity Sketch. I'd done a little bit in Blender, but I think everybody who works with Blender knows that learning Blender is like one of the most painful experiences in life.
I've heard
Um,
that. I've heard that before. I did not even
it's
attempt it because of many, many people warning me against it. Like, it's
it
free,
is
but
brutal.
it comes at a price. Your mind.
It does, yeah.
So
Like
I I
your
pasted the link.
sanity.
Yeah, I pasted a link in the chat to show my recent, I would say, assembly from Hero Forge, just to show the people what kind of level I'm looking for in terms of level of details and accuracy.
Mhm,
Like, it looks like when you get it as a print, and I did order this figure from them a few days ago. I'm really eager to get it from other artists who got their figures from there. It seems that you pretty much get what you saw on screen.
mhm,
Like, it doesn't, of course, doesn't look as exactly as smooth, but it's exactly as detailed from what I could tell from all the reviews I saw. So what my goal is to be able to sculpt at least that level of detail that you saw before during our first pre-chat.
mhm.
Um, but I would probably want to go as much as double that if there's a need for maybe a bigger figure, something like a larger collectible instead of just a tabletop.
You
Because
can do some pretty incredible things in Gravity Sketch. I mean, it is a when it comes to, I mean, the airship that I did, that's 550,000 triangles, I believe.
my gosh.
It's not a small thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Console. My figure was premium plastic. It was $30 US per figure, and I ordered two of them because I figured if I'm gonna wait for 3 weeks, might as well have two to look forward to. But they can go as much as 100 per figure if you choose their steel or I think it's bronze finishes. Like, these are metallic prints. They have a special machine for that, I'm guessing. But
wow.
I don't think that's the best thing to use for gaming. It's more like, I guess, a prize or a gift, something to display instead of playing with, because it has a different texture. It has a spiky, uh, gritty texture to it. It may be cool that it's metal, but we're not there yet. Like, there are other services out there. I think Shapeways offers that, where you can get, you know, anything up to a certain size in a nice polished metal. So yeah, it's not forged, it's not melted, I don't think. If it is, it's an alloy of maybe a cold cast. I don't know what it is, but it's not supposed to be as strong as a real piece of metal that was, forged or cast, from what I've seen in some videos. Not specifically to that company, of course.
All right, so 2 minutes, huh?
I thought they were in-house. I thought they had like people in charge of printing and cutting the sprues and finishing before they send it to you. Maybe that's why the delays are like 3 weeks. Maybe they need to first send out for it, receive it, and then finish it. And yeah, I was trying to look for their process actually, and I couldn't find anything. I gave up after 20 minutes. That's my average. Like, if I can't find anything within 20 minutes, I move on. But I was looking for like a behind the scenes video on their process, but I didn't find it.
All right, what am I looking at? 1 minute. All right, so let's go back to our color palette. Paint our bow stuff brown. Come on, you
Is
got.
that
There we go.
is that a banana in your tool case, or are
It
you
is. It
or are
is a
you just
banana in my
hungry?
tool case. It lets me. It lets me go zooming around my area.
Nice. Did you customize that icon, or is that just part of the software?
Oh no, that's part of the software. It's part of a an add-on called Tool Belt, and
Okay.
it's probably one of my favorite add-ons that I've used so far.
So
All
it's
right.
a camera tool, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's time. Oh, all right. So
Damn it! I can't punish you now.
No,
It's better
did
than
I
it's
did I
better than I
succeed?
expected. So honestly, I can't
Perfect.
punish you. There's no need.
Awesome.
But I like the concept. I like the idea that if you're not satisfied, if your interviewee is not satisfied, you get to,
Hey,
perform some kind of penance. I dig it.
it's
I dig it.
dude, it's your character design, so or your
No,
character
no,
idea. So
yeah, it's
I
a
gotta
character
make that
idea, but it's your design. So
right.
I hereby officially release the intellectual ownership of this figure to you. You do what the frack you want to do with it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
This
All
is
right.
this is so much fun. Like I hope someday you do something with this, like whatever it is. I would be really thrilled to see what this becomes. Like it's
Awesome.
already as an exercise, it's already a success, I would say. But as a I can imagine so many different ways this could go.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping to see what you go with if you decide to finish it someday. If you
Well,
do, I hope you send me a link so I can see it.
oh, totally. I really appreciate that. Coming from an artist of your caliber, I take that as an enormous compliment. Thank you so much.
Well, it was.
uh, I think at this point we're going to take about a 10-minute break because visor burn is a thing, and I am a sweaty mess at the moment. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Creature, are you still with us?
If you're back, I'll be Beethoven.
Awesome. Beautiful. All right.
I had to do that as my brand. People have decided that I'm a bad punner, so I had to at least give one example today.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so we have gone through the character creation process, and now the rest of the show, probably about the next hour, roughly, we're going to go ahead and create this guy an environment that he would be in.
Awesome. Just
So
just as a reminder before you get into that, you
yeah,
were going to show us some examples, including the miniature that you created
oh
in
yeah,
VR.
yeah, I can totally bring those up. Let me go ahead and save this, and I will bring that up. Okay. Alrighty. So I still have no idea what this is. I can't seem to get rid of it. Do you see this? This little part right here?
That's the sucker that you tried to do earlier. It's a remnant of it.
Yeah, but for some reason it just glitched out. Nah, screw it. Fix
Might
it
not be
later.
in the right layer.
Right. All right. So let's go ahead and save this.
It
Save
doesn't
this.
seem to have any material attached to it. It's just a framework. At least I think so.
Yeah, it's weird. So what is this guy's name? We have to name him.
Oh, here. Some people might find it is interesting. I don't think about a name for my characters.
Okay.
I talk to them or about them, and the first name that pops into my head that seems to be a name is becomes their name. It's basically how they're telling me what their name is. It
Interesting.
it's
Okay.
weird. It's like they have a life of their own. If they don't, that probably means the piece is not nearing completion at all. Like when they have a more finished personality or a set personality is when somehow I refer to them or I talk to them and a name just pops up. So I don't know if you want to try that for yourself right now, considering you're the designer. You could just, you're talking or thinking about them, and the first thing that pops into your mind, however ridiculous it sounds, or alien or banal, it might become the name. That's how I see it.
What happened? Oh no!
You're welcome, console. This was my first vid.
No.
What happened? Did you just lose your file?
It crashed.
Oh, crash is
Thankfully, I
fine.
did. I did save it. So,
Yeah,
oh,
this was my first visit to your show, by the way, Nexus. I was introduced to it by console while we were both viewers in the Dark Cloaks show.
oh yeah,
So that's why I just clicked follow because I had no idea you existed before that. So he's doing a
nice,
good job at bringing you people.
awesome. Yeah, he's Console's an interesting guy. We all love him here, and he works his butt off for for everything that we do here. It's pretty
Uh,
incredible.
I know I'm inspired. Like now, actually reconsidering my next big expense, I've been saving up for a new graphic tablet,
Hmm.
and I'm like, I'm having doubts now. Should I get a headset instead?
Right. Hey, Sarah, do you mind enabling the external camera real quick? There we go. All right. So, oh yeah, we'll get out of the.
Well, console, I'd like to see what you do. So at some point, please point up some links or show me
Console does
in the
some
Discord or something.
console does some awesome art. So this is the first high poly mini that I ever built in
How
Gravity.
tall? How tall is it meant to be printed? And did you print it?
I have not printed it yet. I am going to. So, unfortunately, this is a really pretty statue. It is not 3D printer friendly, and the reason for that is because when I built this, I really didn't know exactly what I was doing. Um, I had made a lot of extra pieces. Like for example, if you look at his cloak down here, or not his cloak, his tunic,
Hmm.
these decorations are actually separate. Those are
Okay.
separate pieces.
So they're not
So,
fused. Yeah, not fused yet. Yeah.
right, exactly. Every single scale is an individual scale. Every belt loop is individually done. I mean, the sword is entirely
But
separate.
but this is all. This can all be fixed. Like the
Yeah.
sword could be taken away and printed separately, or
Oh
you do a
yeah.
set of swords. What I mean is, if you were just to keep the figure as is without the accessories, you could
Hmm.
just fuse all of them into one block, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And
And if you've
that would
got the
simplify the printer's job, right?
certainly, yeah, you could take this and if you wanted to, you could put this into a mesh mixer probably and run a couple of remeshes on it. Go inside and hollow it out because there's a ton of extra vertices in here that don't need to be there. But the cool part about this program, the part that I really like, is this shaping tool right here. Just to make rocks or you know anything, it's literally just it creates a volume of any shape.
It's like a spray bottle of clay, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you got a rock,
Like it has
or
it seems to does it have variables like can you decide how much it round overs the facets where they meet?
yeah, yeah, you can now. And these are these things are just getting more and more advanced as it continues. So if I was to edit this, you can see how many vertices are on there.
Whoa.
So yeah, I mean and this is just the shoulders,
This is
the
lace work.
chest.
I
Yeah.
told you I don't like lace.
So what you can actually do is if you look at the controls here. So say again. Yeah, well, I will in just a minute. I'm showing these off first. So if I turn off the subdivision level, see how how it jumps to a low
Mhm.
poly model. So I can turn on subdivide, and that'll round off all of these different edges, and you can actually change the subdivision level. If you see like, right here on the shoulder is a really good place where you can see it. So that's made that subdivision level like 2, and then 3 is super fine. And then you can also turn on the low poly versions of all of these. So if this is the regular subdivision and I wanted it to be low poly, I can do that.
Mhm.
Or higher poly, and the faces get smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's basically how. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Subdivision on. You there? No. There we go. Okay. Now it's fixed.
Yeah,
So
don't mess it up. Don't mess it up for us.
right.
Like, don't
So
mess up your model just for our sake.
right. And the cool part about it is now that the tool belt has been created, you can come in here and grab your paintbrush, and if you want to, let's say we want to make his scales, do a reflective material and like silver, you can come in here and just kind of tap these guys.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then as you continue on, you can actually come in and start painting all of the different pieces, right? So we've got his scales all painted white, and then we want to do, say, a like a brown leather jerkin. So I get nice deep brown. Grab this and like that, and we'll say,
That's quite the time saver.
oh yeah, oh
If
it's
if I were to do this in person, it would drive me insane,
oh it's
especially on a real mini. I will actually do that soon on my
mhm,
2 that I ordered. My practical side is always fighting with my creative and, you know happy-go-lucky side. It's like, "But I just wanna have fun." Yes, but you still have to have a goal. You still have to have
mhm.
an end result and maybe a deadline. If you ever
Yep,
wanna move on to something else, like, you need to finish things.
yeah,
So, looking at what you're doing now, I see potential. I'm also a potential person. It's like, I see where this should be, and I'm not there yet. And
mhm,
I would love for the ability to do what you're doing now. And my main obstacle now, besides the money, of course, is, and that can be overcome over time, save and
mhm.
figure out, economy is, something you can do. But the other obstacle is the ability to print it in an efficient, in an economical way. Like for
Right,
now, I can't rely on Shapeways or any other, faraway service provider to print every single thing I want to do. I do
right,
not intend nor wish to have a printer myself. I know that would be beyond my limits right now. Maybe I'll
mhm,
grow into it someday, especially if the printers evolve even more. And they have been exponentially evolving. I'm really excited about the current possibilities with SLA printers, for example.
mhm.
But I know my current mindset, my current level of patience and distraction would not allow me to be able to use a 3D printer for more than a few days before I throw it out the window.
Right,
Because it's not plug and play; it's currently plug and pray.
right,
You have to put it. You have to put your file through other software to correct your thing before you send it in,
mhm.
unless you sculpted it with the actual software in mind. It's just too many levels of problem solving that take away from my creativity, from
Yeah,
my playground type of mindset. So that's why I'm hoping for, and I'm knowing it's happening. I know it's happening, but it still feels a bit not there yet,
mhm.
where you can just send any file to any printer and it will just take care of business for you. Right now, we have to tweak too many things. We have to make sure that, sorry, I'll give you attention in a moment. One of my cats is, really demanding verbally.
Hey,
Uh,
cats always are.
exactly, especially when I'm streaming or, being online somehow
Right.
with,
It's
with
whenever
my
it's whenever they can be the most disruptive.
Yeah, here's the
That's
culprit. I'll put the
right.
culprit in chat. His
So
that's his face right there, Mr. Pencil. Pencil is definitely the verbal gerbil of the two.
nice.
So what I was saying
So
is, I'm levels away from is several levels away from being a practical thing for me to have a printer. I'm not willing to spend the time to learn how to not lose my freaking mind over how inefficient it is. You can't just put a file in it and then have it printed and just be satisfied with it.
yeah.
8 hours into the printing job, you notice there's a weird angle that created texture that would be too hard to get rid of
Yep.
physically. So you started the freaking printing at another angle. I'm like, no, this is not how it should be. Potential,
Hmm.
potential. So we're not there yet. Some people thrive on that, and I want a partnership with those locally, preferably, so that I could just turn around, send the file, say, hey, I need this figure for in 2 weeks. Can you please, preferably in 2 days, can you
Right.
please, do that for me? And I'll pay them, of course. But it's a question of, can I, should I, is this the time? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Instead of a tablet, I mean, the tablet I can use immediately. I'm trained on it. I just need a bigger one because my old Cintiq from before 2012 is falling apart. Like, it's always been buggy, but now the cable is weak. So I'm like, plus it's always been too small. So now I want a big 24-inch, so it will be served as a secondary monitor. So it's double. Currently, it's double justified. Like, as a secondary monitor, that's
Mm.
big enough to serve as that, and as a tablet that will improve my workflow as an illustrator. Yes, but when I look at this 3D sculpting thing, I'm like, it's tempting.
Well,
It's really
this
tempting to have a headset and just sculpt in 3D. But then, what do I do with my files? I can't print them myself. So yeah, it's
well,
not there yet.
what I'm doing right now, this is the part of VR that I absolutely can't get enough of. So VR allows you to take, I mean, I built this ship deck by deck, and
That's insane.
now because of the way that this program works, I can blow myself up to, regular size and then go investigate, my ship.
Yep.
So I
You
can
could
come stand up here on the bow and see what the captain would see.
you could scratch a graffiti on the underside of a handrail where nobody
Right.
knows it's there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Slap a sticker on the keel.
It's epic.
Yeah. So yeah, it is a really it's a crazy experience being able to do this. Um and seeing it now as an artistic tool, um now that I've actually seen what it can do, it's really it's all, I mean, the limits just keep getting pushed further and further and further.
You mentioned earlier that this is your job. Do you get hired by companies to create models and they take care of everything else?
So it depends on what's going on. I work with a game developer named Studio Shinto. I designed some miniatures for him, the low poly minis, for their game. It's called Tavern Tales. So really, it's a VR version of a D&D game.
Very cool.
So you get to go into a tavern and go hang out and see, play, basically play D&D, but on your, you know in the comfort of your own home, but you still get the the feel of like hanging out with your friends.
So
So
is this in VR or is this on the screen? It
mhm,
could be both. Is it both?
yeah, one more time.
Is it just VR, just on the screen, or can it be both depending on what gear you have?
It really depends on it depends on the gear that you've got. Uh, I use VR exclusively for the modeling portion, and then doing any of my texturing and rendering, I always
Oh,
do
oh,
in
oh. I just meant as a user, like if you play Tavern Tales, do you need to be in VR or can you just do it on your computer screen?
Oh no, there is a PC version of it.
Cool.
Yeah. So I actually we ran a tournament or a competition recently um, for all of their DMs to put together some really interesting maps and show off their creativity. And my God, these guys, I love seeing all the entries. It was so cool. So
Well, it must be satisfying to see your models in use by actual people appreciating the whole atmosphere.
oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, it's it's kind of mind blowing actually. Like it's definitely a dream come true for me. Is the there we go. It's been one more time. Oh, okay. Yeah. So this was the result of today's 1 hour challenge. I was told to make a cephalopod, an anthropomorphized cephalopod, making a bow staff. And so this was my attempt at that. And now we're going to create him an environment. But the question is, what kind of environment should I put him
A workshop, of course.
in? A workshop? I can do that.
Like, do you know what a shave horse is?
I've seen one. I think it's been a
I I
long
I
time.
think it would be one prop to develop, and then the rest can be easy walls and maybe straw on the ground or maybe stonework or whatever. But
Okay,
if you needed one prop to signify workshop, I think a shave horse would be the perfect one, considering
sweet.
it's a staff. So look up a shave horse or somebody can find a link. It's just it's a beautiful ancient technology. I don't even think people know exactly when it was invented, but it was definitely a big deal in most civilizations when you need to make sticks, you need to make dowels, you need to make beams, chair legs.
Right.
It's a device that uses the power of your body when you're sitting down or standing up, mostly sitting down, and pushing against a piece of wood. It's just a single hinge with a lever. The lever's pushing down on your piece of wood and grabbing it real hard. And then you
Mhm.
can using a spoke shave or a what's the other one? A shave. Spoke shave is the smaller one, I believe, and the bigger one for splitting wood. It's a two-handled blade, basically. You have a handle on each side of the blade, and then you can use that tool to drag through the wood and take off huge pieces or small ones if you use the shave horse. But sorry, the smaller item. But the shave horse itself is the holding piece. It's basically a workbench that you sit on that holds your long pieces of wood. You can also use it with boards, but I've seen people mostly use it for things like poles and chair legs and even making your own dowels. Pretty freaking cool.
Interesting. Okay. Um. Yeah.
I'd recommend, like, for the environment, I recommend just a three-wall approach or maybe even just a two-wall approach.
Yeah.
So
That's what I was thinking too.
mm,
Oh yeah, I could definitely make that. Okay. Cool. Yeah, definitely. I
it,
very likely will.
yeah, this is the kind of technology that fascinates me because over time I have built some complex things for my puppet work,
Mhm.
and some of them have driven me a little bit more nuts than I expected. And
Right.
I've decided to make the decision to, like, 2 levels of decision making there, that I would refuse jobs like that from now on. It's just I would rather prefer I do prefer to focus on the sculpting aspect, the illustrating, the storytelling, all of these. If a head is really well sculpted, you don't need blinkers. You don't need those eyes to be able to close and move around in universal directions.
Mhm.
What I do is not the animatronic Hollywood creature. What I do is a theatrical storytelling device. It's a performance object. It's a
Right.
fake life. It's an illusion of life. So if you sculpt it well, if you paint it well, and you perform it well, you absolutely don't need facial mechanization at all. Like, some puppets are more suitable for it, and those I still do sometimes, although most times I refuse now. Muppet
Mhm.
types, the mouth and rod puppet, foam
Right.
and foam and fleece. I enjoy making them once in a while, but it depends on what it is and what style it is. But these, usually you want a mouth because they're designed that way. They just work super efficiently that way. But they don't require blinking eyes. They don't require wiggly ears that you mechanize. Just make them
Right.
out of a wiggly material. Like, I'm all about efficiency now. Like, efficiency, storytelling, whatever serves the purpose. If
Mhm.
it's too complicated, if it's too complicated, it doesn't serve, or it creates problems, then it's just a gadget. I don't want a gadget. I want a tool. I want something
Right.
that gives me what I need, that gives my customers what they need, even if it contradicts them. Like, currently, I have a job that's been on hold for 2 years. It's a life-size horse puppet, and it was a lot of money, and I was glad to get it. But at first, it looked like they were open to the idea of not using animatronics for the eyes, but then they changed their mind and they insisted, and we've had problems ever since. My
Right.
supplier that I hired to make the animatronic eyes pretended he knew what he was doing, but he didn't. He made a horrible job. He had to do a second version, which was even more horrible, and he has been ghosting me ever since.
Oh
So
no.
I don't do animatronics myself. I don't have the skills. I know how it should work, but I don't know how to implement it myself from scratch. I just know that the versions he made were horrible, wiggly, self-destructing. Every time I fixed something that broke, something else would break. So, anyways, because of that, the puppet is not finished. It's taking a lot of space in my small apartment, and that was that was the second exception I ever made, and the last one. I will never work with animatronics again.
Right.
Somebody else will have to take care of that aspect if I'm on a project that has animatronics. I'll design the character. They can design the mechanics after the fact. I don't care. I don't want to deal with that. It's
Mhm.
because that just takes away all my joy. I just want to do a good job and see it perform. I don't want to, and I love problem solving, but I'll limit my problem solving to um, the aspects that I really enjoy that I can give everything I got to, get the results we all need. Wow,
Right.
I really like the curvature you gave to these support legs in the front. It's actually quite practical. I've usually just seen the straight ones.
Well, I'm looking at this reference drawing, and man, what a cool tool.
Yeah, there's plenty of videos of people using them. One channel. Are you okay with promotion of other things on your channel? First of all,
Of course. Yeah.
cool, cool. There is a fantastic channel called Anne of All Trades, and she
Anne
recently
of
made
all trades.
yeah, Anne of All Trades. She's a homesteader. She was a city girl who just decided to start learning how to do stuff, and now she has a full farm. Like she can build studios, she can build her own tools. She learned smithing. She raises chickens, and now
Wow.
she's building a school for crafters and homesteaders. Like it's crazy how much she learns in a very short amount of time. How many people she brings into her community. And she recently made a video about a shave horse that she made, well, recently, last year, I think. So her videos are very well organized. They never go on for too long. They're what I would call the right kind of efficiency. Oh,
Mhm.
thank you, Console, for sharing my Instagram. This is where I dump all my work in progress pictures, especially right after a stream if I've been working on something that I want to show people the progress. Like last night, I worked on a bas relief wall plaque of this emote that I'm about to post. My emote. This is the weirdest thing. This emote started straight up as an emote. I didn't design it beforehand. I just started adding the pixels to the final size, and I created this eyeball tree. Eventually, I blew it up as pixel art. Then I turned that into a full resolution illustration. I turned it into a coloring book page, and now one of my viewers hired me to make a sculpture of it. Her budget was too low for a full sculpture, so I suggested a plaque because I meant to do that anyways for the near future. I wanted to learn that because it's fascinatingly efficient. Again, it's storytelling, it's illustration with clay instead of just paint or pencils and stuff like that, but you can paint it later, like once you make a copy. So that's what I was working on last night. The latest post is all about that. And that's what I use Instagram for. Like, it's also, for me, a great inspiration because I can see in one glance what I've been working on recently and maybe what I have not been. I go like, wait a minute. It's been a
Right.
while since I posted about this, and that must mean it's been a while since I worked on it. So, yeah. And my Twitch, of course, has all the links underneath the video. Thank you, Console, doing a great job at your director position. Yeah, so all my social links are linked under the video box, even if I'm not live. So Instagram, website. My YouTube is particularly good for um, moving things like masks and puppets and costumes. So I take pleasure in documenting my work before I ship it out. So, if the video is worth it, I take the time to edit it and publish it eventually. Sometimes up to a year later. You got to keep busy, pay the bills.
Yeah, you definitely do. I mean, as an artist, especially as a freelancer. I mean, it's one of those jobs that, I mean, it's constantly changing. You're always working on something new.
Yep. As a perfectionist, I have to mention, but you do what you want with it. The shave horse is not a complete mechanical piece right now. You're missing the main piece of it.
What am I missing from it?
From what I can see from this angle, you're missing the actual moving part of it.
Oh, okay.
The thing that holds the wood together. Maybe you combine a few things. That's what I think you did actually.
Okay, yeah, I
Like
see
that
what
tripod
happened.
effect on the complex piece of it. That long leg that touches the ground is probably the moving part that should be with the head of it.
Yep, I think that is
Yeah. I think
exactly
that item in itself could be a project. Honestly, you once you see it on video, once you see how they use it, you'll see what I mean. But it's a
right.
fascinating piece of equipment. I would highly recommend anyone if you want to learn designing, sculpting, more structural things. This is a good item to study because, especially if you can animate it, especially if you make it pivot on a point, you'll see everything it is. It's not 20 different parts that move. It's like two or three, and this is a great start. And despite being such a primitive looking item, to me that's advanced technology right there, because it's something you build things with. It With that tool you can do more, and you can do it faster, and you can do it better. Thank you, console.
So how's that? A little bit better?
Well, you made it vertical, but this part with the mallet thing
Hmm.
should be at a much more diagonal, because that part will
Something like
touch
this.
that part. Yeah, this part will touch the it will touch the part that you sit on. Like the well, it depends on the model, but once you see it in video, you'll get it. For now, it's not a priority. It's an
Okay.
item. We know what it is. I just figured I'd point it out because it's such a fascinating piece of equipment that you don't need nails, you don't need magnets, you don't need anything electrical. People have kept these things for ages in their homestead, and they still work. Like 100 years later, that thing can still work if it's
Right.
built out of good wood. So
I think,
you build houses with that stuff. It's
yeah.
amazing.
Well, it's like medieval technology is something that I've always been fascinated with. I was watching very recently a documentary about these people who are they're experimental archaeologists, and they went and spent I think 6 months at Gadolon Castle,
Oh gosh, that
which
place.
was
What an
that.
endeavor. What an endeavor. 25 years. They planned
Yep.
for 25 years this thing will take to build. I'm
Yeah.
guessing they're probably going to love it so much they're going to add years. Just for the heck of doing it right and adding more details. It's insane.
Oh yeah.
I love that kind of insanity because if you don't do it, you don't know it's being done. Like you don't know it can be done. It's
Right.
been done, but now they can document everything. The whole world can benefit from the discoveries and rediscoveries that they
Mhm.
can bring. So I just want to see more. Like I want to see live streams from them.
Yeah, that would be really really cool. There's some of those experimental archaeology places and projects that are going on are just mind blowing to me. Watching Gedalon Castle be built, that in itself is just nuts. But I got a chance to go see a castle called Le Mont Saint Michel in just south of Normandy
Wow.
when I was in the Navy, and I mean that was where my love of castles I think really came from. Was that Scotland is awesome too, and I had some adventures out in Scotland that would probably get us demonetized. So I'll keep those till for a more private session. Yeah, we went to Le Mont Saint Michel, and it was one of the most insane experiences I've ever had. Just like going up and there was a group of experimental archaeologists there that lived the exact same way that they have for that they did, 300 or 400 years ago.
I hope they cheated on just one aspect, just one:
What's that?
hygiene. I hope they cheated on that. I
Oh
I
yeah,
hope I hope they had actual modern toilets and or showers. I would say both, because
yeah,
shitting in the hallways. I mean, you're risking your fucking life and other people.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Especially when um like I didn't know what a garderobe was
Oh,
um, for the longest time. Have you ever you know what a garderobe is?
wardrobe.
It is, yeah. It's the French word for wardrobe, but it also
I'm French
uh,
Canadian.
oh, nice. Okay. So the way a what a garderobe was in medieval France, it was your bathroom, but it was your wardrobe, but it was also your bathroom.
It makes sense because the word cabinet is often used for, in English at least for, describing where you're going. Like this is,
Hmm.
I must visit the cabinet. Like, okay, well, there's a link. Etymology is a fascinating, field in itself.
Hmm.
The origin of words, for those who might not. We don't all know everything, so I tend to be a little bit didactic on those things.
Hmm.
Oh, this is cool. What is this? Like, is some kind of clamp you created?
Well, it's a plane.
Oh, okay.
See?
Yes. Classic wooden plane with a steel blade that would go across it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If
Oh,
he's a woodworker, I mean, he's got to have.
you want some swear word etymology? I got some. Yes, tabernac is actually tabernacle. The I call it the religious fridge on the main what's it called? You call it in a hotel in French? The table at the church, at least the Catholic church that I grew up in. You have a table. Where do you have the offerings? That sacred table. What's
The
the French
altar?
word? Yeah, thank you. The altar. On the altar, or sometimes behind it on the wall, you have a basically a sacred fridge where they keep the wine, the sacrificial wine, and the hosts. And the tabernacle is a name for that. So in French Canada, the Quebec specifically, but then it's spread around. The swear words seem to have developed mostly around religious terms because, of course, that has a lot more impact. It's because it's sacrilegious to swear, in
Oh,
religious
yeah.
terms. Like you speak the name of God in vain or anything related to it. So the three main swear words in Quebec are tabernacle, or pronounced in French, and especially in the jargon of the place, our native slang of it is tabarnak. So tabarnak, hostie, and calice. So calice is a chalice. Hostie is the host. So if you really, you're empathetic about it, you really want to emphasize what you're saying, like you're excited or you're really pissed. You go, "Hostie de calice de tabarnak." Like you say all three of them as adjectives of each other.
That's
So
awesome.
I teach that to anybody who's coming here for a visit or to stay. I say to integrate in society, you'll need to know how to swear locally. So, "Hostie de calice de tabarnak." Like this, it can be used positively or negatively. It will make some people angry, but mostly these days we're a lot more relaxed about it. It just makes you more relatable, in my opinion. And if they don't like you for swearing, then maybe they're not people you want to hang out with. Close-minded folks. So, as an ex-religious person, I mean, I enjoy the swearing now. I had to teach myself how to swear because as a kid, I would not let myself do that. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, an entirely different topic here, but I tend to enjoy it.
Oh, definitely. And, it's. Oh, wait a second. I didn't do it yet. Never mind. Oh,
Reverb,
sorry.
reverb.
I had one of those moments where your brain just decides to stop working for a sec.
Oh, I get that. You
It's
need to
it's
reboot.
Yeah, it's so weird too. When I'm working on low poly, every once in a while, if you watch any of the previous VODs, you'll always see there is it never fails. There's always a point where for some weird reason the geometry of whatever I'm building just eludes me. For for a few seconds it'll always elude me. I don't know why.
So
But
currently, I'm thinking, or I'm guessing that you're creating chisel heads.
I am. I am
Cool,
indeed.
cool.
And then there we go. We're going to turn this into handles.
Yeah, Reaver. I don't know if that's. I don't know specifically the origin of Sacre Bleu, but I don't. I don't hear it around here unless they're really being mocking. Like, it's not something we say on the typical everyday. Sacre Bleu is more like, to me, it's always been like a cliche that people, especially American people, use in movies and TV shows to mock the French people and how they talk. So Sacre Bleu, like immediately you know that you have a caricatural French person in your show or environment. Yeah, I've never even heard a French person use the term Sacre Bleu as a swear or even as a slang thing. It's
I
an
don't
old,
even know what it means.
it's
Like,
a very old thing, but not in Canada as far as I know, unless we're using it as well, like unless we're exploiting that same cliche. Actually,
all
Sacre
right.
Bleu, if you translated Sacre Bleu, word for word, it would translate to sacred blue or blue, not sacrifice, but more like a a sacrament. So blue sacrament. There's nothing about blood in that word, but blur is blue.
Interesting. I had no idea. I've heard the term before. I never had any idea where it came from.
Yeah, merde actually is being used. It's never got out of style. Merde is just shit. It's just shit. It's
Yeah, I
just
was
the
about to say it's like that
direct,
one I know.
di- direct equivalent, exact translation. Merde is shit. That's it. In French, we say it in Canada, not as much as shit because we use anglicisms a lot. So in French, I'm talking and thinking in French. I'll still say shit. Like, oh shit, j'ai oublié d'aller chercher l'épicerie. Donc, we'll say shit a lot, even in French. You know, French people say it, but less, but they do. In fact, the French people from France, depending on where you are, but I would say especially big cities like Paris and stuff, they will use a lot more Anglicisms than even us that are super close to the US physically. So I would say even mentally, it's just you want to find the exemplary French. There's no such thing. There's no such thing anywhere of anything really. There's no perfection in this world. But people think, oh, what French do you want to learn? Like, oh, I just want to learn French. Yes, but which one? Like French Canada will, French Canadian will be different than the recognized international French. And even that is a bit vague because it's basically what you hear in the movies when they're trying to be accurate and understood by most of the French population of the world. That means letting go of the obvious accents and jargons because, of course, that makes it more difficult for specific groups to hear. When I talked to a French person recently, I was giving a class on Skype to a one-on-one tutorial, and I offered the guy, "Do you want me to speak with my normal accent, which is a blend of everything I've ever heard, or do you want me to keep to my main Quebec accent that I softened over the years for clarity, or do you want me to switch to French from France?" It was like, what? He wasn't expecting that he had a choice about that.
Mm,
I said, "Well, you seem to understand me pretty clearly, but here's an example of me switching to the French, the more international French." And he goes like, "Whoa, I can't believe like you sound completely different." I'm like,
yeah,
"Yes, yes, but I think differently depending on the language I'm speaking. I only speak English and French, but between the two, I can take on different personas based on the type of, you know, the expression, the accents and stuff. I'm not an expert in accents by any means, but I will take on the accent of the person I'm talking to, especially if it's, you know, a one-on-one conversation. I don't do it on purpose; it just happens. And when we notice, it gets a bit funny or embarrassing, depending on who it is.
right.
Like somebody on the street is interpelling me. That's a French word. Someone on the street is, wanting to interact and go, "Hey," I'll say, "Hey." I'll just answer the same way in the same range, you
Right.
know, and personality and level of speech that they're talking to me. So, you know where I can find a bathroom? Sure. You just turn around over there, and there's this big restaurant. Don't go there; they're assholes. But you go next door. There's a gas station. These guys are cool. Thank you, man. No problem, man. I don't talk like that every day, but if
Right.
a person is talking to me like that, I won't think twice about it. I'll just do it. It's just the way I communicate. Some people have taken it personally, like I'm trying to mock them or something.
Mhm.
That's just the way I am, and I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people.
Right.
A lot of people do that. Adapt your language to your audience. I think is very important.
Yeah. I completely agree with. I mean, everybody everybody understands things differently,
Yep.
and it's funny, that that works in a lot of different situations where um it I think a lot of leadership comes from understanding that.
Yep.
I definitely saw that quite a bit in the military, where you know how somebody understands something or how somebody thinks is a huge portion of whether or not you're able to lead them. So yes, 8 minute timer. Oh yeah. Alrighty. So
In 8 minutes, you should have time to give some paint to the walls, or at least some changes to surfaces, and create an anvil. Where's your
an,
anvil,
an anvil. I can do an anvil.
dude?
Let
It's a
me
weapons
do.
workshop. Where's your anvil?
That's true. Well, I mean, if that's going to be the case, then we need to get rid of these. We need to bring this over here. We're going to go to back to our silver material, right? Reflective silver. Right. We will do.
You actually love it, Red Cap, when they find out that you're. By the way, Red Cap. That's a scary name, right? For those who don't know the Red Cap character in fairy lore and stuff, it's fucking gory. Look it up and beware. Like, it's gory. Um, so are you actually Scottish? And is it why they do it? Because people tend to try to find connections everywhere. So when they do that with me, I try not to take it personal, and I usually don't. But it's just them trying to make a connection. Like, you say, I'm Canadian. You must know my cousin. Like, we're a few millions in Canada. So I know Canada's not as populated as, per square yard or per square kilometer as the US, but we're still millions of people. So in the back of my head, I go, oh, here we go again. Maybe. What's their name? Like, where do they live? Oh, they live in Vancouver. Oh, I've never been there. Oh, well, maybe. So that kind of kills the conversation right there. It's like, oh, but instead you say, well, I haven't been to Vancouver, but I know people from there. They tell me there's a really active art scene over there. Like, oh, that's right, I've been there. I saw a whole bunch of art galleries. I went to that show. So the conversation keeps going that way instead of saying, I don't know them. Like, where'd you go from there? Like,
Yeah.
awkward. But
Right.
just people want connections. It feels great. I think those happiness chemicals get fired up when you fix the puzzle. Like, you have this part, like you just met that person, and they tell you this about themselves, and you go, oh, I need to make a connection, quick, quick, quick. Um,
Right.
mm, my dog is from a species that was first developed in Edmonton. I was like, okay. And if I know a little bit about dogs, I'll say, okay, what kind of dog is it? And oh, are they related to the short hair terriers? Like, oh my god, you know about terriers? Like, so many people don't know about terriers. Well, I built some puppets in the shape of terriers, so like, oh my god, like, you just keep it going, keep it bouncing,
Yeah.
at least at first. Then you can actually have a genuine connection once that's been established, like deeper conversations. But I think at first people are all about, I need those connections. I need to make links between what we're saying so that we can realize if we are compatible for a conversation, or at least I want your approval, please. You know,
Right.
give me clues so I can get your approval. It's not a contest, but we take it super seriously.
It's understandable. I mean, the when it comes down to it, um,
You, Red Cap.
man, it happened again. That thing where where all of a sudden geometry doesn't make sense to you, and it makes you forget exactly what you're saying.
Huh. Well, I must say I'm impressed. Like you're doing VR sculpting. You have to think about all these angles, or at least you feel them. And you're talking to us, and you're able to carry a conversation. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried, and I'm not surprised that sometimes either one of those aspects of your brain tend to jitter a little bit. you know.
Yeah, that's. I appreciate you saying that. It's definitely it can be a challenge to stay on track for sure.
I do something similar. I'm using at least the same mental skills with my day job when I need to do, the live entertainment with the cartoon puppets.
Hmm.
Thankfully, I'm not on camera, even though we use a camera to capture some of my motions, especially my eyes and general body position,
Hmm.
um, and stuff like that. But my cartoons are, well, they're not mine, but the ones I animate are what people see. But for them to see a smooth transition between the movements and with my improv of talking to them and back and forth conversation and showing things and entertaining them with a quiz or with visual games or even challenges in their own physical world, it looks seamless. But on my end, I have my hand on a mouse, my other hand on a stream. Well, the same hand goes on the stream deck all the time, because I have shortcuts on that. I have to change scenes with that same mouse and some keyboard shortcuts. It's a whole thing. And it took me a while to get used to all these different ways to input information and control my environment. And I'm using three different software at the same time, maybe four, depending on what the situation is. So I get it. Like you got that headset, you got that control in your hand, two controls, I think, and
Hmm.
you got console in your ears, and you're talking to us. So it's the same kind of thing. It's several levels of focus.
It is a lot of fun though. Speaking of console, what did you say, bud? Yeah, I'm down for that. 2 minutes 44 seconds.
Oh.
Sweet. All right. Well, in that case, I think.
Oh, you
I,
put the anvil on the wall. I see what you did there. I should have known. I was like thinking a classic anvil, like on a big block, on a giant beam of wood,
well,
or
I've
you know.
got. But I was thinking. Here, we'll do this.
Sometimes all they have is just a giant beam of wood that has a bit of a divot in there. Depends on what you're doing, but me, I'm a big fan of the classic cast iron anvil. I think it's cast
Oh
anyway.
yeah. Usually they are. The good ones are at least. Um, we've got uh, a member of Nexus Dungeoneering and one of my best friends, Nikita, uh, also known as Mother Turf. Say again, CR. Um, he's wanting to become a blacksmith, so at some point we got to get him an anvil and some
Yeah,
hammers.
yeah, that's the best gift you can give them, like a proper full-sized anvil. Unless they just want to do mini work, but the full-size anvil is the most difficult thing to guess, I think, from the videos I've seen, because it's freaking big, massive, and super heavy. Try to get that shipped. It would cost you a month of rent or more, like just to ship it anywhere. So it's a great gift if you can find especially if you can find it used. It has a bit of life into it, like
Mm-hmm.
a history. And if it's local, like somebody's been keeping it in the barn for a long time, you just go with your car, liberate them some space by buying or getting that anvil from them. And then your recipient is like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that for me. Because it's so freaking hard to get an anvil. I've always wanted one, actually, even though
Yeah.
I don't make tools that much. I make my own miniature sculpting tools with found pieces of metal. So I
Mm-hmm.
basically just use a grinder and maybe a grinding bit on my rotary tool. But sometimes I hammer things down, and I broke a freaking vise because of that. The vise has a mini anvil on it, which was a stupid idea from the designers initially,
Right.
because the vise metal is not meant to be hammered repeatedly in that spot. It cracked the freaking vise in half. And I wasn't hammering it like with all my force, so it just ding, 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 ding. Eventually, wear and tear, it just split it in half. I can still use it as a vice, but definitely not as an anvil. So
Right.
Yeah, I want a mini anvil. I don't see them in the local stores. I'm very disappointed in Canadian hardware stores because in America you can still go in pretty much any hardware store and get some staples. Like you can get staple tools that you know they will have. Like
Right.
try to find I think it's called a deadbolt
Hmm.
hammer, dead blow hammer. I want
Yeah.
one. I only saw one model at a big Home Depot. I had never even known it existed until I saw a video on YouTube. You
Yeah.
know,
There's a if you're really interested in getting into blacksmithing and getting an anvil and everything, there is a YouTube channel that I've been watching for a long time called Alex Steele, and he has a shop
is he a
that
British guy?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
he's
he just
awesome.
moved
He's
to
so
Montana.
entertaining. Yeah,
Yeah,
super
very
entertaining.
very entertaining guy. He did a Zweihander, which was absolutely incredible. So,
Yeah,
but
I saw him collaborate with someone else that I was already following. So thanks for the reminder. I'm gonna click subscribe right now so that I don't forget.
yeah, no problem. Well, we are we're about out of time now, and I'm thinking I think we've got a pretty decent environment for this guy, wouldn't you say?
Dude, again, no penance. I can't honestly, apply a penance for this. No punishment. You went beyond my expectations. So damn it,
Outstanding.
damn it, how dare you? So
Well, I thoroughly appreciate you coming on the show, man. This was a really really awesome talk. So, and
thank you. I enjoyed it.
always, man, feel free to come back anytime. You are always welcome here.
Well, I clicked on
So
that follow earlier, so I'm definitely coming back and
perfect.
as a viewer.
Thank you.
Console physically in the same space. That's why you said you
It's
were
very rare.
Exactly.
Usually it's just the disembodied hand and or finger.
Yep.
But
We're gonna work. I can't hear myself. We're gonna be working remotely, and that'll make it a lot easier. We don't have to worry about anything, and my voice will be a lot smoother.
truth.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for following. If you haven't followed already, all the links are down below in the stream. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the links will also be down there. With all the links that lead to Creaturiste's work. He's an amazing person. It was really fun talking and listening.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. We will be back tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Who's our guest tomorrow again?
Oh, that would be Day Dragon.
Day Dragon. Day Dragon is going to be our guest. So yeah. Again, Creature, thank you so much for showing up. Everybody watching, thank you guys so much for sticking around. We appreciate you guys. Stay safe out there, and as always, stay creative.
Hey everybody, welcome to the ConsoleRequired show. My name is Brandon, and we only got 45 seconds. Thank you guys so much for watching all the videos. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following. Be sure to follow all of our cast members. Be sure to follow all of the artists. Yeah, just be sure to follow everybody and be really supportive. Go in their Discords and say hi, and go connect with other artists. It's really cool. It's a really neat thing to do. Yeah, or come on our show and be chill with us. I don't care, but whatever. Get a hold of us. The link's in the description.